Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire release from Playmates. And now this figure, I actually initially had stated in my Jurassic Hunt video I had made that I wasn't going to pick it up, but there were actually a lot of people in that video that had left comments about this being a really new figure and basically letting me know I wasn't the most intelligent person in the world because I didn't pick it up right away. And I actually had a few people message me privately as well about this figure. So I went back to Target, I grabbed it anyway just so I could at the very least create a review for you guys on this release, and then I'll pass it on to my son, who again is a pretty big time Godzilla collector. So it looks pretty fun here at first glance, though I can see some things about it that I'm not a big fan of, and it's not even stuff that we could see right now. But you can see the packaging again looks pretty much as it usually does. This is also called the Roll in Battle Kong, and you can see that it punches, which I think the last Kong punched as well. It was like that version that had like some sound effects and stuff to it, if I remember correctly. But again, I don't really buy the Kongs. That's one big problem for this review, is I don't really have any other Kongs like this when it comes to these newer Playmates versions to compare with, because I don't really buy the Kongs that much. Sometimes I do. If it's a special type of figure, I'll buy a Kong once in a while, and I did buy one when these figures first came out, but it was like one of the smaller ones. But we'll compare with those ones at the very least. But you can see here on the back, again, some information as well as a shot of the Kong. And then, again, roll for punching action. And then nothing really too interesting on the opposing side. So we're going to pop this out of the box, bring it in, and we'll check it out. So here is our Roll in Battle Kong now out of the packaging. Definitely looking a little bit kind of goofy. I mean, I'm not super sold on the sculpt of this one. I don't think it looks perfect, but then again, none of the Playmates figures usually seem to look and, work perfectly. But obviously, we've got some wheels on the underside, hence the roll part of the name of this figure, I guess. But you can see it looks pretty cool. Again, when it comes to a Playmates Kong, I think it pretty much fits right in, I guess, for the most part with the rest of them. If we get nice and close, take a look at the head sculpt. You can see the head sculpt looks pretty decent. He does have his mouth slightly open here, which we can see the teeth inside. They look okay, sculpted decently, painted fairly nicely. You can see a little bit of the teeth have kind of missing paint, but for the most part they look okay. We can also see the eyes right here, painted with an orange and then a black pupil staring directly at us. We've got the nose and everything. He's got kind of like a little bit of an interesting face on him right here. I guess that's his attempt at being angry. I don't know. But he's got like a light gray for the face overall. It does fairly smoothly transition out to a much darker tone for the body color. As you move out into the fur, you can see the fur is sculpted pretty decently. We've got the ear back here, and again, the fur on the top of the head sculpted nicely. I like that it's very like erratic as far as the way it's kind of sculpted here on the head, making it look, in my opinion, a bit more realistic. As you move around the course of the head, you can see it looks pretty much the same on every side. We do have an articulated head, which we can see. Obviously, we can swivel it completely upside down if we were to want to, do something crazy like that. But as you move down into the chest of Kong, the skin texture looks okay, but is definitely quite muted overall when it comes to the very fine details. Like, we've got the abs and the pecs and everything sculpted out pretty nicely, and we have, obviously, those scars painted out here on the chest of Kong. But when it comes to the nitty-gritty, very, very fine details, you can see not really all that impressive. As we move along, though, you can see the fur and everything, again, pick back up as you lead out of the chest and stomach region. Again, sculpted pretty decently. The skin doesn't look that great when it comes to the sculpt, but the fur, I think, looks a lot nicer. As you move to the back of Kong, we can see some screw holes back here, which is definitely not a good thing. They look really quite ugly, and I hate screw holes, so anytime we can get a figure without screw holes, I'm always pleased. So it's unfortunate that we've got quite a few on this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screw holes on the back of Kong as you move down. That is an impressively sad number of screw holes. But we've got the fur and everything sculpted out nicely on the back here. The hair, again, sculpted out nicely as you move down. You can see it looks pretty decently through the entire course of the body. I could imagine maybe even just applying a light dry brushing to this one would really amp up the, that fur detail on the figure. As you move out, you do have arm articulation, and you can move them basically in a swivel-like way and also out away from the body, which is definitely a plus. We as well have elbow articulation, which is pretty nicely done, and you can swivel that as well. And then it looks like we've got a swivel for the wrist, maybe? Oh yeah, definitely. It was just really stiff at first, but you can swivel the wrist, and again, basically articulate that arm any way you would like. Moving down the arm, we again have some decent fur detail. You could definitely see some very impressive musculature in the arm of Kong. When it comes to the newer version of Legendary Kong, he is absolutely jacked. Crazy again, he's just super muscular. It's never more apparent than when you watch Godzilla X Kong the New Empire, actually, and you see him in comparison to some of the other apes that are seen again in the film. But you can see moving down into the hand, we've got the gray tone returning, some decently sculpted hands. You can see the nails sculpted out, even the knuckles and everything are sculpted out pretty decently on the hand, and now we lost focus. But on the hand of this Kong, I think it all looks pretty decent, you know, overall. It's not anything amazing, but decent. And then as you move over to the other side, we again have the same sort of articulation. Again, the ability to go out away from the body and forward and back, as well as the elbow. And again, I didn't think we could swivel just because of all the mechanics going on here with his power glove, but unfortunately no swivel action on this side. And there's definitely not going to be, or at least it doesn't look like there's any wrist articulation on this side either. But again, the sculpting of the arm, and of course the glove here looks really cool. We've got all of the letters and numbers and stuff applied to it. Very nice, precise, for the most part, paintwork that looks pretty good. And the overall sculpt, again, is actually quite phenomenal. I could definitely imagine this one being fun to repaint if you really wanted to get, you know, crazy with something like this. It could definitely be a really fun repaint. But as you move down, here's the one area I don't like of the figure, but it's obvious why it is this way. But as you move down, you have no leg articulation at all. Now, I personally do prefer articulation, and sometimes when, you know, a lack of articulation has to occur due to an action feature, it makes me kind of like the action feature and the figure itself a little bit less. But, I mean, I haven't sampled the action feature quite yet, so I guess we'll get to that at some point here in the near future. But as you move down, again, the legs look really quite strong, definitely very muscular. Leading down into the foot, you can see the gray tone, again, return for the toes here of our Kong. And that's pretty much it. There's not really much of anything else going on when it comes to this figure, sculpt-wise or paint-wise, that we would need to go over. So as far as the action feature goes, I'm not entirely sure how we operate it. So my assumption as far as how to actually work this would be maybe to move Kong back and then we roll him. Okay, so yeah, I mean, we definitely saw the arm come forward. It was like in slow motion. Now it's not doing it at all. What in the world is going on with this? I don't understand how the heck you're supposed to do this. I mean, I could see as I move this, the arm kind of turns, but maybe it's just my, you know, review area that it's not working on. Maybe it's just not the right... Oh, yeah, okay, so I can see basically what's supposed to happen is as I move Kong through, the body, I think, keeps turning and keeps punching. And that's kind of what is supposed to be occurring, but it's not working. I don't know if this one is defective. You can see it's kind of got like quite a bit of resistance when I try to move it through. And then half the time it just doesn't work at all. Yeah, I don't know. That's not a very good play feature of this. Definitely not a very good action feature. Does not work well at all. And maybe one of the most lackluster Kong figures in the line as a whole. Just like, I mean, I'm going to have to go at some point and I'll try it on like a different, harder surface and I'll let you guys know if it works better there. But as of right now, it is definitely not working on my review station, and it's a fairly hard kind of solid surface, so it should be. I don't know why it's not. So it's not really the best lighting in this spot, but I found a harder surface to try this on, and as you can see, it does kind of work, but it doesn't work very well. And I would say overall is a fairly lackluster action feature. As far as the size goes, though, for this ridiculous Kong, height-wise, you were looking at just a hair over 11 inches, but not quite at 11 and a quarter, or about 28, just shy of 28 and a half centimeters. For a size comparison, There is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovisaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our Kong, our Roll-In Battle Kong. And you can see again that it's definitely pretty big. Absolutely one of the larger Kongs in the series. You know, they've got like the giant Kong out, and then there is the one that came after that, which again, I can't remember the name of, but I know it had like a punching action feature as well. And now they've got this one, and they're all fairly large figures. So this one, I would think, is probably similar in size to the giant Kong, but it may be a little smaller. Again, since I don't have that one, I can't really tell you for sure. But for a comparison with another Playmates release, there is your standard-sized Kong. Obviously, that's like that special color variant in that Walmart exclusive 2-pack, but it's also the same size as the Kong that you would get in like the $10 range for this, again, Playmates line. But obviously, we can see that this version of the Kong, the newer version here, is absolutely a whole lot larger than the other ones. But again, I don't know how big it is in comparison to some of the other larger Kongs like the giant Kong or anything. And then one more Playmates comparison, we also have the Godzilla here again from the Playmates Godzilla line, and you can see that as well, again, is a whole lot smaller than our Kong. So this brand new Playmates Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire Roll-In Battle Kong, is interesting. Again, now having this one, I kind of feel like I should probably go get the other two that are out, you know, the giant Kong and then the other one that came after it, just because, I mean, if I've got the other Kongs, why not complete the collection? And I do believe they are all still available for sale. You know, I don't think they're like retired or anything at this point. But this one is definitely what I would think would probably be the least likable Kong from the entire series of figures, just because there is a lack of articulation on this one in the, you know, lower half. Obviously, the lack of articulation in the legs isn't probably a big deal due to people enjoying action features and stuff at sometimes, you know, for certain people. But for me, personally, I really would have just preferred, you know, articulation down there, and then maybe the legs moved when they tried to do it. I don't know. I just think there would have been a better way to do it, but I guess, you know, it would have been hard to really kind of create articulation while still allowing an action feature that kind of runs from the foot up into the body to work. So I guess it was inevitable that they had to do it this way, but I just don't really like it. The only thing, though, of course, these are aimed towards kids, and kids would probably enjoy this if the action feature worked at least a little bit better. So obviously they would prefer the action feature that we have here because it's going to create some fun playability, I would think. And since we already have articulated Kongs out in this line, I guess it kind of makes sense that they would switch it up to something different. And honestly, how much can you really do with a Kong to make one Kong different from another? So I guess they're trying, you know, trying to give us something a little bit different. At the very least, we have to give them an A for effort, or maybe even a B for effort, but they gave it their best shot, I guess. Sculpt-wise, it's an okay figure, not anything to, you know, go crazy over, but it looks alright for what it is. Paint-wise, it's also alright. Nothing, again, incredible as far as that goes. So, it's not the greatest figure, that's for sure, but I've definitely seen worse, there's no doubt about that. However, if you are interested, as I already mentioned, I did find this at Target, so head to your local Target. I will include a link in the description, actually, to the listing where you can purchase it on Target's website if it's in stock, but I haven't seen it in stock, you know, since the Jurassic World Hunt video had gone up, and people mentioned that this was a newer figure, and I did actually take more notice of it then. I went ahead and looked into it a little bit just to see if you could find it online, and I found the listing, but it's actually not in stock for me. So I'll include it anyway, just in case it does go up, you know, again, in stock at some point. So again, pick it up if you want it. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.